Today we are honoring the Celtic Bridget, goddess of the British Isles, venerated for thousands of years by millions of people. And it is said in some ancient texts that she was born with the rising sun, risen to the sky, rays of light radiating from her crown, nourished as a baby on the milk of a sacred cow. And the bards tell us the marvel of Bridget: wherever she walks, flowers and shamrocks spring up in her footsteps. There are so many pronunciations and spellings: Bridget, Bride, Brid, Brig. All comes down to the meaning of exalted one, high one. Brigantia, patron goddess of the Brigantes, they were the ancient people of middle to northern Britain. Doubtless, my studies show that originally she is probably the same goddess as Brigid. When you peel away all of the layers of history, you find out that all these goddesses with different names and different qualities, they all really come down to the one great goddess. The Brigantes were temporarily conquered by the Romans around AD 155, but the Romans couldn't hold it. The people of the British Isles were too powerful, too wily, too strong, too independent, and eventually the Romans gave up and left. Now, we've all know about Boudica, but a lot of us don't know about Cartimandua, sometimes called Cartimandua. She was a Roman British queen of the Brigantes Celts from AD 43 to AD 69. And this is a depiction of what she might have looked like. A lot of people decry her as having betrayed her own people. But if you look deeper into it, you see that this was a great queen who was put in a series of impossible situations. And so we must not be too hard on Cartimandua, this great queen. She's called the Roman British Queen of the Brigantes because she ruled during the Roman occupation. And some say she betrayed her own people, but it's very possible, if you peel away the layers of history, it's very possible that she was simply trying to do the best she could at a very, very difficult time with no good choices. Cartimandua. Brigid is the goddess of poetic arts and crafts, prophecy and divination, and Cartimandua surely would have honored and venerated, as Boudica did, Brigid. Boudica would set loose a hare, and that would determine which way her choices would go in terms of the upcoming battle that she had to face. And Cartimandua undoubtedly did that as well, using living beings, hares, in a kindly way to set them free and use them as divination for a message from the divine as to what to do next. Brigid is also known for ultimate wisdom, healing, certainly protection, domesticated animals. She's known for so much that, once again, as I always say, peeling away the layers, you see that these very, very old goddesses, they all blend into one original great mother, maiden, queen, wise woman. They are all one. Later on, patriarchy chopped all the goddesses up, and some were known for this and some were known for that. But if you go back far enough in history, you see that they all were everything. They all undoubtedly go back to one great mother. And Brigid also includes blacksmithing and the forge. And it's very important for us as goddess women to remember that we must not barbify the goddess. If you go online and you ask for pictures of Bridget or Aphrodite or any goddess, what you will see are images created for the male gaze, highly what I call barbified, big breasts, tiny waists, often blonde, small noses, tiny little chins of very childlike faces, but with adult female bodies that are impossible. This is not who we are as women. I have deliberately not chosen any of those images because I do not want us to think of those as the images of ourselves as goddess embodied or goddess herself, which is what we are. Goddess is nothing more than us, women, embodied in the world. And we look all different sort of ways. We're young, we're middle-aged, we're old, we're very slender, we're very heavy, we're fleshy, we're round, we're angular, we're blonde, we're ginger, we're brunette, we have different colors eyes. Let's not focus on these Barbified images that are meant for the male gaze. Let's choose images that really look like actual women. Forge. Bridget is not some delicate little flower goddess. She's strong, she's powerful. She has a forge and an anvil, and she bangs shit out on her anvil.
That's right.
And I love this image of a real woman in Ireland working on her anvil, working to create something. Look at that. That's what a real woman looks like. That's what Bridget really looks like. She is creating something on her forge. She's unafraid. She's strong. She's determined. She knows what she wants. She's going to hammer it into existence. Cormac's Glossary, which is a text written in the 9th century by Christian monks, said about Bridget that she was the goddess whom poets adored. And the monks in this same glossary also referred to Bridget as woman of wisdom, famed for her protecting care. Now, the Christians, when they came to the British Isles, they could not get rid of the goddess Bridget. So they co-opted her and made her Saint Bridget. And you know what? That's fine, because she was able to reach a whole new group of people in the same way. There was actually a Saint Bridget, and she is honored and venerated. And this is as it should be, an actual woman. From the Middle Ages, St. Bridget has been honored at Kildare in Ireland, and doubtless the location was founded on a pre-Christian sanctuary. Her sacred fire there burns continually, tended by nuns. And there are so many, if you go to Ireland, you will see so many wells named after Bridget. Here's one at Kildare. But there are many all over the British Isles named for the goddess Bridget. And this is her time of year, around February 1st. And what you see on the right, it is a tin, a decorated tin, kind of like an Altoids tin, but it has Bridget's blessing on it. And this is a tin that you are meant to carry around with you in your little knapsack as you travel the country. And it shows Bridget, and it gives a Bridget's blessing. May Brigid bless this house wherein you dwell. Bless every fireside, every wall and door. Bless every heart that beats beneath its roof. Bless every hand that toils to bring it joy. Bless every foot that walks its portals through. And Mata, read that last line for me.
May Brigid bless the house that shelters you.
Let us all say together, may Bridget
Bridget,
bless the house that
that shelters
shelters us.
Us.
Yes.
Me.
Yes, me. So this is also the time of the ancient pre-Christian festival of Imbolc, the season when the ewes come into milk. And that's what Imbolc means. And this is also known as the beginning of spring. February, March, April is spring. The Western calendar thinks of spring as a little bit later, but if you're really paying attention, you see that spring actually initiates in February, March, April, and summer is May, June, July. So this is a time of weather prognostication, similar to America's Groundhog Day. The serpent will come from the hole on the brown day of Brigid, though there should be 3 feet of snow on the flat surface of the ground. Brigid is associated with perpetual sacred flames, which shows you that if you go back far enough, she is also associated with the fire goddesses Vesta and Hestia of the Romans and the Greeks. And once again, this proves that if you peel away the layers of history, all these goddesses are actually one. Brigid, with her sacred perpetual flames, Vesta, with her sacred perpetual flames, Hestia, with her sacred perpetual flames. And the sacred flame at Kildare was said by ancient chroniclers to have been surrounded by a hedge which no man could cross. This is very interesting. Men who attempted to cross the hedge were said to have been cursed to go insane or die or be crippled. This is the protection of the principle of woman. This hedge protected the Bridget's flame from men who would have an incursion upon it. Brigid is important in modern Scottish folk tradition, where she figures as the midwife of the Virgin Mary. Numerous holy wells are dedicated to her all over the British Isles. Her connection with water is very deep. Several rivers in Britain and Ireland are named after her. In the ancient Irish saga texts, Brigid has a son who dies, and in response, she begins the custom of keening, which is very much a part of Irish funereal traditions. Keening. Keening at a wake is done mostly by women, and it is sort of a cross between wailing and crying and singing. And it is this amazing feeling in the room. And the women keen, as you see here in this 19th century pen and ink, women will keen and other things will go on in the room. People will eat and drink and do different things, and the women will keen for everyone. And this is really important when you think about keening, this emotional release of expression of love and connection to the one who has left the body. Keening is something that is not permitted In our patriarchal culture, when you go to a funeral here in the United States, unless it's an Irish funeral, if you go to like a Protestant funeral, any huge, loud expressions of grief are very much frowned upon. This is a way of shutting our women's voices down. Keening comes straight from the goddess, and we should be permitted and allowed to use our voice at the crossing of a human being leaving the body. When you go to a funeral, think about this. Obviously, do what's appropriate, but also, if you have the opportunity to keen, to wail, if it's authentic for you, perhaps do that and show people what real goddess tradition is. In these same texts, Bridget is credited with inventing a special whistle that people could use to call to one another during the night. If you know anything about ancient peoples, you know that there was something called the second sleep. What that was, it was different in different parts of the world, but people would go to sleep early, somewhat after sundown, but then they would wake up around 1 o'clock in the morning, and they would go and they would do a whole bunch of things. They'd go feed animals, they'd go muck out the barn. Vajra knows what I'm talking about. They would go and they would do many things. They might go visit a neighbor a couple miles away. They'd stay up for a couple of hours, and then they'd go back for their second sleep at about 3 in the morning, and they'd sleep until dawn. So this is a very natural way of living. And we don't have that way of living in our culture. We've lost that. But Brigid is credited with inventing a special whistle that when people were walking around late at night, and it was the middle of the night and it was dark and there might just be a little moon or maybe no moon at all, they would use this special whistle that people could call to one another over long distances during the night. Many of us are familiar with Bridget's cross, a small cross woven from rushes. This is made by boys and girls, and the Dalai Lama is very proud of his Bridget's cross. Look how beautifully that one is made. It was presented to him. This is set over doorways to protect the house. I'm thinking now of Meredith Kirby, a longtime member who helped us make Bridget's crosses one year, and that was a very beautiful thing. All hail Bridget.
All hail Bridget.
Bridget.
Mm-hmm.
For Bridget, hear my words. I'm calling from your heart and calling from your mind. I am the spark that kindles the flame and nurtures all in kind. For a jewel of light has been at every root and lies within the soil's clay, and it cradles the babe of our visions and dreams and sends all creation into flight. Take my hand, I'll pull to free your stance. I pull only at first. And when you push to make out a path, the waiting sea pods burst. There's a fountain that flows from deep within the rock and satisfies the thirst in all. And it cools the brow when the hammer falls and soothes away for the birth. So speak my name, I'll come to any door and come at any hour. And when you raise your voice and your heart, your innocence is power. And the healing of love can sweeten bitter taste and wash the poison from the wound. And it fills every sail to ride upon the sea and guides every vessel homeward bound. Blessed be.
A poem by Orion Foxwood. Candlemas Blessings. Deep in the earth, the mother sleeps and dreams the world alive. Light a candle in her name. Your luck will surely thrive. Midway twixt the cold of winter and the breath of spring, the holy Sabbath Candlemas removes the dark year's sting. The sun of light within her belly stirs the sleeping seed. Come spring, she rides the eastern wind, as swift as any steed, and casts a spell of maiden song on every living thing. The fire we light at Imbolc tide becomes the light of spring.
Oh, thank you both. Thank you both.